Welcome to This Week in Wrestling History.
All right, everyone, welcome to This Week in Wrestling History. As always, we are your hosts. I'm Ryan. This is Jacob.
Yo.
And we got another episode this week. And before we get into the meat of things, anything going on this week in normal wrestling that we want to cover?
Survivor Series is coming up.
Yeah, Survivor Series coming up. Again, as I think we kind of mentioned last week, I'm not terribly excited about this.
It's a way to get the guys a payday.
Yeah, it feels really like they're just treading water here. It's the same kind of thing for an entire card where you can't really progress any normal storylines. You have kind of a hard time starting any new ones because in order to really do anything on the shows on Raw or SmackDown, you have to do, oops, betrayed my team. Oops, not good chemistry on the same team. It's
a little goofy now, especially because they have some kind of like super tweeners on the teams. Like Braun Strowman 2 weeks ago was a heel. I'm sorry, 3 weeks ago was a heel. Then he was a face. Now he's kind of a heel face.
Yeah,
and he's teaming on Raw with Dolph and Drew, who are super heels.
But now that's an uneasy alliance again because, we don't like you anymore.
But then you add in Finn Balor, who's uber babyface, and then you have Bobby Lashley and that awful, what's his name?
Leo Rush. I mean, he's super annoying, but that's what he's supposed to be, so he's doing his job.
Ugh.
Can we talk for a second about how awful this whole Braun Strowman thing has been?
I had read that there was some backstage heat on him.
But, well, that whole thing aside, even if they're not going to push him with the belt, let's go back 2 months. He is the biggest face on Raw.
Yeah.
Super over, super popular. Out of friggin' nowhere.
Shield gets back together.
Shield comes back together. Out of nowhere. Massive heel turn.
Well, I mean, there was also an article on Bleacher Report that was talking about how Braun is getting into the Bray Wyatt Big Show realm where, oh, look, he's a heel. Oh, look, now he's a face.
Yeah,
oh, look, now he's a heel.
That's exactly where I was going with this whole thing. Big Show is kind of like coasting his way out of things. He's still doing stuff over on SmackDown again, but he's clearly kind of wrapping things up for his career.
Yeah, I'd say so.
We don't need to replace him with another, hey, look, it's the big giant dude that whenever we need a bad guy to be a chicken and get squashed by someone, here he comes.
Yep.
Whenever the authority figure needs to throw some big, massive monster up against the good guy, here he comes. We don't need that.
Yeah, it's not great. I was a little surprised at him getting a Universal title shot if Team Raw wins, which, let's be real, they're probably gonna because SmackDown is the B show.
Yeah, that writing is all in the sand at this point.
So it's kind of interesting to see. I don't know if they're going to, because the next pay-per-view after this one that Brock works is the Rumble.
Right. So what is the December pay-per-view?
TLC.
Oh, so yeah.
But we're not going to see him until after.
Right, Brock won't be there, but that also makes a good part to kind of do the quote-unquote blow-off between Dolph, Drew, and Braun, so they can do like a 2-on-1 match.
Yeah.
Have some crazy stipulation, have Braun win, earn his title shot at Rumble, get the belt off Brock at Rumble.
I don't know if they're going to give it to him at Rumble.
I've heard that they're not planning to take this whole thing out to Mania, that
good.
Brock actually going into UFC would probably screw things up a little bit too much.
Yeah, I could see that. Also, Becky is now out of Survivor Series.
Right. So that's really unfortunate because that's probably the only match I was really looking forward to.
Oh, Becky and Ronda? For sure. That was, aside from Brock and AJ, because last year when they had a match, it was probably Brock's best match of the year.
Right. So it's nice that Brock shows up for certain guys and he shows up for AJ because they're both kind of
good old boys.
They were both former IWGP champions.
Yep. So I think besides that match, Ronda and Becky was going to be the top one to watch.
Right. I don't know anyone that looks forward to the Survivor Series style matches every year. If you're someone out there and you enjoy those, let us know why, because I don't see it.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan. It's kind of cool to see when they do the double crosses, because sometimes they change it, but sometimes it's the exact same thing. I'm almost betting this year is going to be the same thing as last year. Corbin is going to screw Team Raw because he doesn't like Braun or something like that.
Right. So back when they were quote unquote more organic giant 4-on-4, 5-on-5 matches, you had people kind of forming their teams up, finding new friends. You could kind of forge new alliances. You could kind of, if there was a feud going on that you want to end, you could kind of hotshot it onto the other guys on the other team. So if you had, say, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Hulk Hogan, and two other good guys, whoever Hulk Hogan had been feuding with can kind of get shunted off to Jim Duggan by them having a little bit of a thing. But now we're cross-branding things. Randy Orton can't get into a fight with Dolph or Drew because they're not on the same show, so it doesn't matter.
Right. I think the last time Survivor Series actually meant anything decent was during the Invasion angle.
Right. That makes sense there.
But, I mean, after that, it's always been either Raw versus SmackDown, or there hasn't really been a rhyme or reason to having all these guys against each other.
Right. Honestly, as far as tradition goes, I'm fine getting rid of the Survivor Series style matches unless they make sense.
Right.
Like, build to them. Make them make sense. Don't just random, like, you kind of need to build up a faction before these things are ever going to make sense again.
And I think that's what Survivor Series would be absolutely amazing for, is if we get back to faction wars.
Right. Or just, okay, we build up the Shield and a couple guys and a big giant team of heels that all hate this whole thing and want to take them down. Or build up the Wyatt family again and a bunch of top guys trying to take on the Wyatts.
Yeah.
Or bring back the Club or the Elite and bring them all in, and by next year they're an invading force, and much like the Invasion, and okay, now we actually have a bunch of faces and heels trying to all get together and stop these guys.
Right. I think that would be probably the best way to do it. Or even if they truly want to make NXT the third brand, have a bunch of NXT guys invade Raw and invade SmackDown.
Right. Like, hey, you forgot about us. That's always the WWE's biggest problem right now, is they're always going about and calling these things the fans like equal to everything else. Like the Women's Evolution pay-per-view, like NXT is the equal third brand.
But it's not.
But it's never treated like that.
Right.
Cool. You can say it all day long. You can say the Universal title means something, but it doesn't when it's never around. All right. With that complaining it done and out of the way, I think it's probably time to actually get to our main subject here today.
Yeah, we're talking about Clash of the Champions 9 from WCW in 1989.
Yeah, so kind of following up on last month's Halloween Havoc, WCW was doing these Clash of the Champion events as kind of their filler big events in between their pay-per-views. It was something that was shown on TBS monthly, and it was kind of like their big monthly show. This was number 9, obviously, coming, again, right between Halloween Havoc and Starrcade, I believe, because I think Starrcade was always in December.
November, December at this point, yeah.
So this was kind of their filler. It was kind of wrapping up a few things coming out of Halloween Havoc and kind of kicking off stuff going into Starrcade and the new year. So let's get to it.
November 15th, 1989.
All right, so Clash of the Champions 9, New York Knockout.
Ugh.
Yeah, we're going to be dreading that title a little bit here. So, and another weird thing about this is WCW going up into New York for an event, which,
at this
they
time
usually don't push up into that.
Yeah, it was a little weird because they even mentioned we're we're waving to our family back in Atlanta for this one.
Yeah, so they were up in Troy, New York, of all places. They were definitely not in New York City.
No. And you could tell by the venue, it was a little smaller than what I think they're used to.
Well, it was a dome kind of type show, so it wasn't teeny tiny. There was like 4,000 people there apparently, so it wasn't huge. But then again, as we were saying, Clash of the Champions isn't a huge event. It's just a big event. Does that make sense? Any thoughts kind of before we start going match by match into this thing about this whole event?
Bad.
Yeah, we'll tell you right now, this weren't good. There was a good match on it, but by and large not good.
Yeah, there out of all of the matches, and there was what? 1, 2,
There's 7, I think.
3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 7 matches. The best one was the last one.
Oh, by far, but it'll be obvious when we get to it why.
It was an hour and 20 minutes worth of why is this a thing? And then, oh yeah, this is why it's a thing.
Right. So let's mention a couple of the interview segments because they kind of happened all throughout the show, and I don't remember where exactly, so I don't want to mix them up too much. First thing was we had an interview with JR interviewing Terry Funk, who's going to be in our main event tonight. Terry Funk and Gary Hart. Main event is going to be Terry Funk versus Ric Flair in an I Quit match.
For the WCW title.
No, not for the belt. They explicitly mentioned
Really?
Yes.
Oh, that's right. Flair actually says we're not talking about the belt. We're not talking about any of this. We're talking about reputations.
Yeah, we're talking about respect.
Yeah. Okay, that's right.
So Terry Funk is out in front of the crowd and cuts this promo. That's an incredible face promo, and he's like their biggest heel right now.
Yeah, and this is a little bit late. It's about midway through the show that they hit this one. And he talks about how Ric Flair rides around in limos and likes to be chauffeured. I drive a pickup truck. Ric Flair likes to fly first class. I fly coach.
Right. He makes himself so relatable to the people,
right,
especially to the Southern fans.
Right. If I was sitting there listening to that promo, I'd be like, yeah, no, I want that guy to win. I don't want the rich guy to win.
You could literally take this promo, have Steve Austin cut it against The Rock, and it wouldn't feel out of place at all.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was a very mid to late 90s Stone Cold promo.
Yeah, it was a Stone Cold promo. So Gary Hart jumped in a little bit on it. Honestly, I don't quite get Gary Hart as a character. He seemed worthless to me, but whatever.
He wasn't great as a manager. He was less good at his job than Jim Cornette was.
Yeah. And so the other interview segment I want to really mention that we had was this weird trophy presentation from PWI magazine.
So Pro Wrestling Illustrated.
Which, back in the day, it was cool to see on newsstands. It was a wrestling magazine, and I bought a number of issues of it back in the day.
I mean, if you think about it back then, it was the only way to get information about your favorite wrestler aside from watching them on TV.
Right, and that's actually something I want to mention a little bit later when we start getting into the matches. But yeah, so we have a trophy presentation for Sting for being the most popular wrestler of the year. And then we have a presentation of Wrestler of the Decade.
Which was Ric Flair, who at this time was only a 6-time WCW NWA champion.
Right, so he's got another 10 reigns in him apparently between then and now. But yeah, it was a little weird.
I mean, the fact that Sting came out in a leather jacket and a suit.
Like baggy suit pants, but they almost look more like hammer pants because they're so baggy.
Yeah. And it was just weird to have the editor-in-chief of PWI on this show talking about essentially cutting a promo.
Right. And the guy cut a promo real hard to the camera, too. It was a little bit weird. But something that didn't dawn on me until right now, what a dick move it is by WCW/NWA to give this guy the most popular wrestler of the year award. And he's not even on the card.
Yeah, he didn't wrestle at all.
So this is the people's favorite wrestler. You don't get to see him today. We're just going to give him a trophy.
Yeah, I mean, he showed up later on.
Yeah, we'll get into that. He shows up during a couple matches.
But he doesn't actually have a full match.
Yeah, he's not actually on the mat and on the card. So, all right. That was all the weird little interview segments.
So circle back to the very first match.
Yeah, let's loop back around. And our very first match is the Fabulous Freebirds against the Road Warriors.
So not the first time we've talked about either of these teams.
Nope, man. Probably not the last, but honestly, I think they are starting to kind of get near the end of their runs here. I don't think the Freebirds are in WCW terribly much longer, and I think the Road Warriors end up going to WWF in the near future from here.
As far as I remember, they made their debuts, and of course, now I'm drawing a blank. It was very, very, very recently after this, I should say.
Right. So, the Road Warriors ended their run in 1990, and we're at the end of 89 right now. So, yeah, they left in mid-90.
Isn't this when they start? This is when they recently, a couple episodes ago, we talked about their feud with Doom.
Yes.
And also when the Steiners got involved with it, I believe it was shortly after the Road Warriors wrapped up their part of the feud. That's when they went over to WWF.
Correct. So, something a little bit weird about this is the Freebirds come down, announced as the NWA World Tag Team Champions.
But no belts.
No belts. Because they had lost the belts to the Steiners 2 weeks ago in a match that hadn't aired yet.
Yeah, so this is where your tape delays start to get real goofy.
Which, I was thinking about this earlier on my drive over here. How awful the whole NWA concept actually kind of was. Because even before this kind of thing, think about it. You have this NWA champion going to all these different NWA promotions that could possibly lose the belt on any given week when he's nowhere even near your territory. And
right.
We don't have the internet. We have dirt sheets, hotlines, and magazines. You know what a pain it must have been to keep up with who the champ is?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I could only imagine. I wasn't near a wrestling fan when...
You weren't born when this stuff was around.
Well, when this was around, but even when WCW was in their heyday and the internet was just kind of starting, I was kind of just getting into wrestling. So I didn't really want to go that far into some of this stuff.
Right.
But back then, I could only imagine what a pain in the butt it would have been.
Right. So, cool. You live in, let's say, Florida. The champ is off in Texas, loses the belt. Some brand new guy's champion, and you don't even know for 2-3 months.
Yeah. You won't find out until they show up on your TV show in the NWA.
Right.
And they don't have the belts. And you're like, wait, what the hell?
Right. So, say what you will about indie feds, but at least you can kind of keep up with things. With
yeah.
Monthly shows. How are you supposed to do that back in the day? That just seems like a pain in the ass.
Yeah. I wouldn't have wanted to do it. So, anyway, we get
Freebirds versus Road Warriors.
Legion of Doom.
Yeah, Legion of Doom. That was...
I mean, they essentially had two names. They were the Road Warriors, the Legion of Doom.
Yep. So...
It wasn't anything special.
If you've seen a Legion of Doom match, you've pretty much seen it. They no-sell a bunch, hit a bunch of big moves, and then end up getting DQ'd.
Yep. It was about par for the course for every Legion of Doom match.
Yep. Nothing new there. Match wasn't great. So, next up, another tag team. A lot of tag team matches on this card. And they're all like front loaded too, most of them. All right. Next tag team match was, again, the team of Doom versus our good friends Eddie Gilbert and Tommy Rich, the one-time NWA champion Tommy Rich.
And they made mention of that.
Because there's nothing else to say about him.
Right.
Again, I think we mentioned it back at Halloween Havoc. He was NWA champ for 5 days, I believe.
Yep. This is, again, before Doom takes their masks off, so they are still just Doom 1 and Doom 2.
Yep. Went in, did their Doom thing. It was fine.
Yeah.
Nothing to write home about again.
Beat everybody up. I mean, the biggest thing here was the random little promo by Woman before their match. and
Yeah,
how
just-
awful. What's his name's commentary? What the hell's that guy's name?
Gordon Soley. Yeah, that's what we forgot to mention here. So, all right, we're going to get a little controversial. Gordon Soley, much beloved by old school fans.
Awful.
What was up with him? Yeah,
Awful.
not good. He's kind of like, I don't know at what phase of his career he was in. I'm guessing this must have been near the tail end of Gordon Soley's time.
Yeah, because shortly after this, I remember we ended up talking about something that happened in like 1990 or 91, and he was just the interviewer.
Right.
He wasn't on commentary at all.
He wasn't. You're right. So this must have been near the end, and so that, I guess, makes it, with my next part kind of sad. He seems kind of like your grandpa that would randomly interject something that's kind of related to what you're talking about, but doesn't really contribute anything to the discussion. So you're like, heh, yeah.
And that's exactly what happened during the woman video package that they had. She's talking about how Doom's going to beat up the Steiner brothers and blah, blah, blah. And they cut away as she's like laughing maniacally that Gordon Sully goes, "Man, she's evil, but ain't she pretty?" And JR was just like, "Yup."
Yeah, it's just really weird, very flat delivered lines. Like, he's very factual.
Yeah, and there was no good chemistry between him and JR.
No, because they both basically filled the same role. They're both play-by-play guys.
Right. There was no color commentary to like boost the stories or anything like that.
Right. There was no good interaction between them because they're just two smart guys doing their thing, calling these matches.
Right. Like it's nothing like you would get with JR and Jerry Lawler or Corey Graves and Michael Cole, or hell, even better, Corey Graves and Byron Saxton.
Right. There's no real interplay between them because they both filled the same role, so it was kind of redundant to have them both there.
It was poop. It was a whole lot of poop.
All right. Anyways, so Doom takes their match again. Standard Doom match. It was fine. Eddie Gilbert and Tommy Rich are kind of old guard, kind of being phased out. Doom kind of the newer guys being brought in. Again, it was fine. Whatever.
So then we jump to the Midnight Express with Bobby Eaton and Stan Lane with Jim Cornette.
Yeah, kind of with Jim Cornette.
I'm getting there. Against the dynamic dudes, Johnny Ace and Shane Douglas, who actually rode out on skateboards this time.
Yes, this time Johnny Ace rode his skateboard down the ramp.
Also with Jim Cornette.
So, yeah, the big story here was the Midnight Express and the dynamic dudes were both kind of wooing Jim Cornette.
Yeah, it was like a really awkward 5-man love triangle.
Yeah, both teams kind of wanted Jim Cornette. Jim Cornette was a face at this point, which was really weird. So he was kind of in between, didn't know which team he wanted to support. The Midnight Express was kind of doing some underhanded stuff, which he was pulling the referee's attention to, so they couldn't get away with it.
And he said that he was going to remain impartial throughout the match.
Yeah, he was sitting in a neutral corner, and the Midnight Express at one point tried to like drag them over to their side,
and at one point towards the end of the match, somebody ends up grabbing a chain to come in and hit. I believe it was Johnny Ace with, and Cornette ends up picking it up and like shows it to the ref, and the ref goes, no, we can't have that, and Cornette goes and like stuffs it in his pocket.
Yeah, he's like, we're not having any shenanigans, and then
shenanigans
to everyone's absolute shock and surprise.
Jim Cornette ends up taking his tennis racket, which is still in its case, by the way.
Oh yeah, it's always in that little holder thing.
And he smacks Johnny Ace across the back with it.
Yep, clocks Johnny, and the heels have a good laugh at our poor baby faces who everyone hated anyways. So this must have been just them realizing this is awful, this is going nowhere, let's just be done with this whole thing.
Yep. Make Cornette a heel again and be done with it.
And I think this was actually, again, really... So this was about the time where NWA was converting to... So Jim Crockett Productions was becoming WCW, becoming their own brand and about to sever their ties with the NWA. New management was coming in, and a lot of the old guard really hated the new management.
Yeah, and Jim Cornette being essentially the flag bearer of the old guard didn't really... I don't think he wanted to stick around for much after this.
So him and Stan Lane get out of Dodge pretty soon. Bobby Eaton sticks around and gets a big old WCW paycheck. This is about the time where... So Flair was the head of the booking committee here and was supposedly in control, but the executive committee would... or Jim Hurd or however exactly it worked, would keep kind of vetoing things and not really letting him do his job. So that's when Flair took the big belt and went to WWF soon after this.
Yep.
Anyways, that's getting a little bit ahead of ourselves.
So next match we have Dr. Death Steve Williams versus the Super Destroyer.
Yes, the masked wrestler, the Super Destroyer.
From Parts Unknown.
Later to be known as Jack Victory in ECW.
So here's what I'll say about this match. I was watching this while I was at work, had my headphones in listening to it. I saw Steve Williams come out. I looked down to do something, looked to back up, and the match was over.
Yeah, before JR could get out too many stats about Steve Williams' collegiate athlete career.
Which is the nail in the coffin
Again,
for just
as
about
we said,
everybody.
the kiss of death.
Steve Williams ends up winning.
Yeah.
In like a minute and 45 seconds.
A complete jobber match. And if we're going to have a jobber match on Clash of the Champions, why not have Sting go over some jobber?
Right.
Why not have someone the fans really care about as opposed to Dr. Death Steve Williams, who...
Or, I don't know, maybe make Lex Luger, super heel, go over some jobber instead of what would end up being 2 matches later, a not great match.
Yeah. All right, so let's wrap up our last tag team match of the night here. We had the Steiner brothers defeat the Skyscrapers.
So, Brick Steiner at this point isn't doing his, what did they call him?
Oh, the dog-faced gremlin.
He wasn't really doing that. He was doing more of the Eugene-style
I was going
gimmick.
to bring that up. Was that his gimmick?
Yeah, apparently
He was a moron.
Yeah, he played the guy who was kind of like spaced out, and Scott Steiner had to kind of like keep him focused and like had to reel him in kind of thing.
But they also made points about these guys being collegiate athletes from Michigan State.
Yeah?
How did this guy get into college, much less graduate?
Yeah, I don't know. It was kind of entertaining to watch because it was...
Like, he was literally Lenny from Of Mice and Men.
Yes, he didn't know what to do with the character, so he just kind of made stupid faces and like pointed at his head a couple of times.
It was awful. It was so uncomfortable and just terrible.
So yeah,
which I guess kind of sums up a lot of characters from this, but
right. So they were facing the Skyscrapers, and it was Dan Spivey against Sid Vicious. In this match, Sid actually punctures a lung.
Yeah.
And he ends up being replaced by the one and only Mean Mark Callis.
Yes, Mean Mark. Very, very, very callous individual. Very cold.
What did he do again?
I swear he did something. I think he's actually still around in the business.
He did something.
He did something recently.
Oh, that's right. The Undertaker.
Ah, yes. Definitely still around.
Unfortunately.
To everyone's chagrin.
So yeah, Sid Vicious ends up puncturing a lung and is out for, I want to say they kept him out for a good 4 or 5 months.
He was definitely out a while.
And he gets replaced by Mean Mark, who wasn't really doing a whole lot. I mean, he was kind of like the cowboy that was coming out with... Was this when he was with Paulie?
I don't even remember at this point. He was pretty aimless, just being like, hey, here's a big guy that can kind of go.
Yes, so this was after he was with Paulie, because 2 years later, he's in the WWE.
Right, so actually appropriate for this time of year. I believe in, like you said, 2 years at Survivor Series 91.
Yes.
So
yeah, overall, again, not a great match. There wasn't much to it.
Doom comes down, interferes, then the Legion of Doom comes down and saves the Steiners from the 4-on-2 beatdown.
Woman comes down. That was the other part.
Yes.
So woman comes down with her
With Doom.
With Doom, and I think it's Animal is about to like go after. No, it was Rick Steiner ends up trying to go after her.
Yup.
And he gets smacked down real quick by Nitron.
Nitron, woman's new bodyguard.
Yeah. He ended up going on to not do much in wrestling.
Yeah, didn't really go too far in wrestling.
But was a actor or is an actor, I should say. And hit some pretty decent roles.
Yeah, so Nitron is actually Tyler Mane. He would go on to be the first Sabretooth in the very first X-Men movie.
He would also go on to play Michael Myers in Rob Zombie's 2 Halloween remakes.
Yeah, so not an insignificant career. Not an A-lister by any means, but
no, but when
doing well for himself.
When you need a big guy who can kind of act, like not good for him because
because the Nitron role wasn't going to go anywhere.
Right. He found life after wrestling, which sometimes is hard for longtime wrestlers to do.
Yeah.
It seems like he got out and managed to do something.
Yeah, he got out, and it was probably a very wise move because I never saw him do anything in wrestling, but I'm imagining he probably wasn't tremendous at it, so career change probably a strong move for him.
Yeah. He was not great in wrestling, to say the least.
All right, so then we have our one and only championship match of the evening, which was Lex Luger, the NWA United States Heavyweight Champion, versus Brian Pillman.
Which, can you say the first part of that again? Our only championship match of the night on the Clash of the Champions pay-per-view or TV show?
Yeah, maybe that didn't make the most sense booking-wise, maybe.
Probably not, but anyway.
But say, that just made me realize, TV champ Muda, not on the friggin' show.
No, yeah. Well, he was on the show, but not on the card.
Not on the card.
We'll get to that. So, again, if you've seen a Lex Luger match, you've seen them all, especially with the numerous times he's faced Brian Pillman.
Yeah, this weren't good. Luger's not good.
No. Pillman carried that match by far.
Right. Lex Luger's... The biggest thing against Luger has always been he's not a great worker and basically needs to be carried through matches by someone better than him. This was a prime example of that.
Yeah. No difference here.
Only real notable thing was the finish of the whole match.
Yeah, and I probably missed it.
So Luger, we end up with a ref bump. Pillman gets a 3 count, or would have been a 3 count if the ref hadn't been knocked out unconscious. He gets frustrated, goes over, tries to wake up the ref. Pillman goes, grabs a chair, cracks Pillman in the head, or Luger grabs a chair, cracks Pillman in the head with it. Ref, miraculously at this point, wakes himself up, gets the 3 count. Luger not happy with Pillman having solidly beat him once or twice during the actual match, but the ref not being able to see it, decides to extract some revenge, grabs the chair, goes to town on Pillman.
That's right.
Picks him up, puts him in the torture rack, and is looking like he's not going to ever let it go. He's going to torture Brian Pillman.
And then isn't this where Sting runs down?
This is where we get Luger's friend Sting coming down to make the save. Yep.
Which is funny because I'm pretty sure Sting takes that belt off of Luger coming up soon.
Yes, I believe he does, and then eventually they end up feuding over the world title in a couple years.
Yep. So, again, gotta have the people's favorite wrestler in the NWA show up and do nothing.
No, I think he ends up attacking Luger here. I think and Luger ends up running off like a chicken, which... Why have this giant dude be a chicken? Like, I don't... This isn't... That's not a great role for Luger.
No, especially... I mean, if he's going to be your big monster heel at the time...
Right, like...
Make him your big monster heel. Don't make him the cowering heel.
Yeah, like... Sure, have him go too far and have him not want to get into it with his friend, yada yada, whatever. But it was just weird.
Yeah, again, ain't good.
No, that again, pretty much story of the night here. All right.
So now we get to the good one.
Yes. Now our good match for the evening is Ric Flair versus Terry Funk in an I Quit match.
I'll start off by saying this is probably one of the better old school wrestling matches I've ever seen.
Yeah. It isn't what you'd think of when you think of old school wrestling. They went outside of the ring. They had a table even that they were chucking each other into in.
Ironically, nobody went through it.
Right. That's not what happened. Well, did you happen to... So at one point, they take the table and flip it upside down and lean it against the ring. It was reinforced with multiple 2x4s.
Uh-huh.
No one could have gotten through that thing without a severe injury.
And I'm pretty sure at some point that after this, I'm pretty sure is when they start pre-cutting the tables, when they start using them.
Well, we're probably still a good 5-6 years away from that at least. But
So it was a lot outside of the ring, but it was a fairly good wrestling match in the ring.
right,
But-
and there was good psychology to it.
You had Ric Flair, who was doing his normal shtick that everybody knows Ric Flair for. But then you had Terry Funk on the other side of him doing this almost like, I guess you would call it like dirty South wrestling.
Yeah, it was sloppy. It wasn't necessarily the most technical of things, but it was kind of impactful, hard hitting, and got the job done.
I guess you could almost liken it to what Mick Foley was doing as Mankind.
Yeah, or almost kind of like Dean Ambrose's.
Yes.
Without the spinning
Yes, less of a lunatic, more just
brawler.
yeah.
Except at one point he pile drives Flair on the outside of the ring.
He pile drives him onto the apron. He suplexes him onto the apron.
Yeah.
He pile drives him in the ring twice, and then he pile drives him onto the concrete floor.
Yeah. This was definitely a match where you saw some big moves and you saw a lot of them, and it was legitimate that one of these guys that, as we'd said about Bret Hart, Mr. Perfect, SummerSlam 91, where it looked like two guys legitimately trying to hurt each other with wrestling, this was right up there with that kind of thing.
Yeah, except it was less of a doing wrestling moves and more of a beat 'em up.
Yeah, more of a bit more brawly, bit less wrestling, but still had wrestling elements to it.
Yeah, because, I mean, you end up getting the finish where Flair slaps on the figure four after working on Funk's legs for a good third of the match.
Yeah, and you have Terry Funk just writhing around, screaming in pain for probably a solid minute and a half.
Yep, because remember, it's an I Quit match. So at this point, it's still early on in the I Quit matches where the ref actually comes over with a microphone,
Yep.
sticks it in their face, and goes, "What do you say, Funk?"
Yep.
And Funk's screaming, "Never, never, I'm never going to quit. I quit."
Yeah. It was a little weird that it kind of transitioned from no, never. Please, you're breaking my leg. You're breaking my leg.
I quit.
I quit. It got a little weird in there, but it made sense for what was to come in a second, because Terry Funk had said to Ric Flair, if you get me to say I quit, I will shake your hand, because again, this whole thing was about respect at this point.
And this is a big deal because it's still prior to, again, the internet and all this stuff.
Yeah.
The fans think that these guys actually hate each other.
Exactly. And by this, and again, going off that promo earlier in the night, they're basically saying like, hey, we are two different people here, and I don't like you, you don't like me,
Yep.
but I respect that you're tough, kind of thing almost.
Yep. And it ends up with Flair winning, and Funk goes to shake Flair's hand, and Gary Hart
is having none of this. He's like, no, you over my dead body. Are you shaking his hand?
and Terry Funk goes, "No, I'm a man of my word. I said I was going to shake his hand. I'm going to shake his hand." So they shake hands, and then Terry Funk clocks
No,
Gary Hart.
Gary Hart kicks out Funk's bad knee that was just in the figure four.
Yep. And Flair goes ballistic and starts beating up Hart.
Yep. Chucks him into the corner, chops him a few times, and then runs down the Great Muda and the Dragon Master.
Which still, I cringed every time JR goes, the Japanese! It's the Japanese!
Yeah. Again, things in wrestling that just don't age well.
Ugh. So they come down, they're beating up Flair. Funk tries to get up to help Flair, gets beat up.
Yep. Sting runs down, makes the save. We have Flair slap the Dragon Master in the figure 4. Sting locks Muda into the Scorpion Deathlock.
And then out comes...
Lex Luger again.
Hey, we remember that guy from earlier, and
Yeah.
he goes right after Sting.
Yep. So he gets into it with Sting. And that's... So heels finally get the numbers game. Gary Hart's able to keep Terry Funk down just because Terry Funk's knee is bad from this whole match that he just had.
And other than that, there's not much to it. It's the heels, essentially, the fans going home upset because the heels won.
The dastardly heel... Well, the good guys won, but they won the battle, but they haven't won the war. The bad guys on their way back to the locker room... Luger swings by the interview area and smashes Sting's trophy
With a chair.
But the best part was right when he did it, the camera was trying to pan around a set piece and miss the whole damn thing.
Yeah, you see him walk behind this set piece. You hear a crunch, a crunch, a crunch.
You hear JR selling it like someone just got shot.
Oh no, he's beating up the trophy. He broke the trophy. They come
broke
around
the trophy from the people.
and then they come around the corner and there's
That
a trophy.
trophy's got a family.
There's a trophy laying in pieces and Lex Luger standing there with one of those old school blue folding chairs.
Yep. So,
Eh.
yeah, I mean, the main event was... Like, the last half hour of the event was worth watching. So, like, the last minute of the Lex Luger-Pillman match to the end of the show.
Yeah.
That's worth watching.
Especially because this is, I believe, one of the earlier ones that Dave Meltzer gives a 5-star match to.
Yeah, so Flair Funk was a 5-star match. I would say less so for the match itself, which, again, was good. But the fallout after it and the story to it really kind of made it more than anything.
Yeah.
And this was the face turn for Terry Funk. After this, he would have, like, he'd be coming out in, like, a silly rednecky suit and doing his own little interview segments and stuff. But he wouldn't be with the company too much longer after this, but it is what it is.
Didn't he end up in ECW after this?
Yes, but not until 92, 93, maybe into 94.
Okay. So he just...
It's a couple years. He goes to Japan for a little bit.
That's right. And then we start getting those... Is this when we start getting Japanese death matches?
Yeah, early to mid-ish 90s. Yeah, it's our death match years.
We should talk about those at some point.
Yeah, we'll definitely... at some point, I'm sure we'll cover those in a...
We shouldn't watch them, but we should talk about them.
I think I can watch them. As long as they're not too many barbed wire ones, I'll be okay. Yeah, all right. So that's Clash of the Champions 9 from NWA WCW. Anything to...
November 15th, 1989.
Yep, 89. So we're heading into Starrcade after this. All right, let's go wrap this whole thing up here.
All right, so that was Clash of the Champions. 9, New York.
Champion, maybe.
Yeah, New York something from 1989. To round everything out, we're going to talk about something that we did recently. We actually went to ROH Global Wars in Buffalo.
Right, so this is dropping on Friday. So 1 week ago from today, if you're listening to it on Friday, or last Friday.
Yep, we went and saw, like I said, ROH Global Wars, which is ROH and New Japan's kind of big cross promotion thing
Yeah,
that they do.
It's kind of like a mini tour. They do like 3 or 4 days over the course of like 2 weeks or so.
Yep, and they usually send. It's usually in the Northeast.
Yeah, it's usually the Northeast because I don't know if Global Wars was intended to be a reference between it being Ring of Honor and New Japan, or because it happens usually between the Northeast and Canada.
I think it's the whole New Japan ROH thing. But
Okay.
anyway, probably one of the best live wrestling shows I've ever been to.
For me, it's definitely the best live event I've ever been to. I've never been to a pay-per-view before, but I have been to a Raw, a SmackDown, a Nitro, a number of indie events.
Yep, same number of indie events. Haven't been to a Raw or a pay-per-view, but managed to go to this, SmackDown, and NXT. And I think the only thing that comes close to this is the NXT show.
So before even the card itself, we got to meet Cody Rhodes. Spent a few minutes talking with him.
And Brandy. We
And
got to
Brandy.
meet Brandy, too.
Yep. Nicest people in the friggin' world.
Yeah, they were super nice. Cody was cracking jokes the whole time and sneezing his ass off.
Yeah. Super patient with everyone there that was in line to meet him, and just couldn't have been nicer, couldn't have been. He clearly wanted to spend time with the people that were paying to see him, and he wanted to make sure everyone got their money's worth, to the point where basically the security guy kind of around him was like, okay, you guys got to go. Next people got to come up.
Yeah, it was one of those things where he was still out there doing the meet and greets after the matches started, because his match was the last one of the night. So this is around 7:15, 7:30-ish that it starts. They went on at probably, 10:15?
Yeah, probably close to that.
But he was out there still meeting with people until about 8.
Yeah. So that was great. If you check out our Facebook, you will see some photos of the two of us with them.
Yep. Again, nicest people in the world. You can tell that Cody is one of those guys who, even when he was in WWE, knew who was the reason why he was there.
Right.
And why he had so much success.
He is out there doing what is his family legacy, and he's out there and appreciative of the people enabling him to do it. And it was just really great.
And you could tell he was having a lot of fun with it too.
Definitely. So,
All right, so into the card itself.
yep.
Now, again, if you don't know kind of the independent circuit, you might not know a lot of these people,
Honestly, I didn't know a lot of these people going into it.
but you do now.
Damn right I do.
So first match, we have we actually end up having the boys against the Kingdom, which is Matt Taven and I can't remember the other guy's name.
And the boys were just the boys. They are kind of followers of Dalton Castle. I don't know if they have announced names.
They don't. They are just the boys.
Okay.
So, and it's Vinny Marcella. Yes, Vinny Marcellia. I'm probably saying that wrong, but it was Vinny Marcellia and Matt Taven against the two of them. Ended up not even happening because they just beat the snot out of the boys and called out Dalton Castle because Matt Taven wanted to face him in a match.
So Dalton Castle comes out and then gets blindsided by the third member of the Kingdom,
TK Orion.
TK Orion. Ugh.
Yeah, not a great name.
Little indie-rific on the name there, but
Anyway, so they end up, TK Orion and Dalton Castle end up having a match where Orion is really at Dalton Castle's back, which he just came back from back injury with.
oh right, he actually had the kind of like a back brace on during the match.
Yep. And we end up getting Dalton Castle going over, which is nice for the hometown crowd.
Right, because he's from Rochester.
Yeah, he actually wrestled for one of the Grease schools. I don't remember which one, and I don't want to offend anybody.
One of our silly friends he does something with Grease wrestling.
He's
I don't know.
the coach.
He's a greasy wrestler. That's all I know. He'll never hear this, so I can talk all the trash I want.
Right, because he doesn't listen to us. So after that, we get Kenny King versus Cheeseburger.
Right, so Kenny King had a championship match coming up against Jay Lethal one of the following nights of their show.
2 nights later.
2 nights later, but had a warm-up match against an unannounced opponent, and Cheeseburger came out.
And Cheeseburger is actually relatively big around the indie scene. And
yeah, so again, I had never seen him, but
I've seen him wrestle at IWF I think, once or twice.
Super teeny tiny guy, but crazy high flyer and just brings a lot of energy to the match.
His timing was pretty damn good through most of the match.
Everyone's timing this entire night was really good.
True.
There's a notable difference between going to an indie show and going to Ring of Honor.
Right. Ring of Honor is probably the closest thing that you're going to get to WWE in that regularly tours around the
This
country.
area, yeah. Definite difference and really impressive stuff all around.
So Kenny King ends up going over after almost getting pinned by Cheeseburger once or twice.
Yeah, fun little match.
Next up, we had Kelly Klein versus Madison Rayne. It was okay.
It was fine. As far as Madison Rayne, for all I've heard about her, didn't terribly impress me.
I think she's kind of lost a step or two after she was gone for a little bit.
Okay. Which,
Totally
totally fair.
Former Impact Women's Champ. She was also in the Mae Young Classic for, I think, 2 rounds she was in there.
Oh, was she? I
Yeah.
did not know that. Honestly, I guess I'd put her at about a Bella level.
Yeah, from what you saw, I could get that. She's definitely better than that, but it didn't come through in this match at all.
Fair enough.
Kelly Klein ended up going over, again.
It looks like they're kind of trying to build her as a bigger heel, bigger, stronger
Which,
female.
I mean, she is bigger than most of the other women on the show.
Yeah.
Because she was, I mean, I'm 5'10", 5'11", and when I stood up, she walked by the ramp and she was like right eye level with me. So compared to Madison Rayne, who's like 5'3".
Right. She definitely towered over Madison, so it looked impressive, so it was fine.
Next up, we had a 4-corner survival match. And this is where shit starts to get real good.
Right. So this is where we start getting some of the New Japan guys involved in things, and the night really starts picking up.
So this one we had Jonathan Gresham, good old Flip Gordon,
Book flip
Bushi from New Japan,
from Los Ignorables de Japón.
and Kushida, who is the current IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion. Holy crap.
This was insane.
There was so much stuff going on that it was hard to take it all in.
This is really where you start kind of seeing the level of talent pulling away and becoming a different level from everyone else.
Yeah. The spots that they had in this match were amazing. Like it shocked me at how well these 4 guys, because it always gets a little hairy the more people you get into a match.
Yeah, just everyone in general though. I now see where Flip got his nick, where he pulled his name from.
Right. I mean, the guy did a moonsault stunner at one point
Yeah,
off it was a springboard spear off the second rope.
right. He did a ton of stuff. I think he did a springboard shooting star at some point.
Yes.
So
There was quite a bit that was happening.
Kushida hip tossing everyone in sight and almost hitting the referee with the hip toss before the referee had to be like, no.
Which was amazing, by the way.
Yeah, there was just a hint of comedy right when it needed it, but it didn't go too far with it. It was just amazing and nearly nonstop.
I'm just glad we got to see somebody actually use the mist.
Yes, we got to see Bushi use his mist. That was great.
All right, so Kushida ends up going over. He pins, I believe it's Flip.
Was it Flip? I thought it was Bushi.
You're right. It was Bushi because Bushi was the last one to leave.
Yep.
Um.
And the fans loved everyone.
Oh yeah, you could tell that this was a show where people were here to see some good wrestling.
Yeah, it's like good guy, bad guy don't matter. If you're good, you're getting cheered and chanted for.
Yep. Which is indicative of Bushi, who's technically part of a heel group and was doing heel stuff throughout the match,
Yeah.
but still got massive cheers.
Yup.
All right, so next match we have personally my favorite match of the night. Jeff Cobb versus Evil.
Evil and Jeff Cobb, both bigger guys. Jeff Cobb, huge guy. Probably bigger than Samoa Joe in both height and weight, I would guess. But
So-
he's about the closest guy I could compare him to.
Yeah, they have Jeff Cobb billed at 6 foot 265.
Okay, so that's actually a little bit lighter than I thought, but still, just two big guys going at it, smashing the crap out of each other.
The fact that a man who is 6 foot 265 is able to pull off one of the best looking standing moonsaults I've ever seen
Yeah,
twice.
that was the crazy spots in this match that just popped the heck out of the crowd. Was Jeff Cobb takes Evil down, stands over him, and he thought, okay, you're going to splash him, drop an elbow, drop a leg because you're a big dude. Just out of nowhere hits a standing moonsault. It's just like, what?
Yeah, so somebody that big should not be able to move like that.
It was ridiculous. It was amazing, but ridiculous.
Also, when Evil uses the ref to do the magic killer on Jeff Cobb was pretty phenomenal also.
Oh, yeah. It just, okay, we're going to do a magic killer, but need a second person here, so I'm just going to pop him up onto the ref, and okay.
Overall, great match. I loved every second of it. And
Yeah.
Jeff Cobb ends up going over Evil.
Jeff
but-
Cobb being the Ring of Honor TV champ?
Correct.
Okay.
All right. After that, we had Juice Robinson against the last real man of wrestling, Silas Young.
Okay, this sucked.
Yeah, it wasn't great. Juice and Silas don't have chemistry at all.
No, they didn't have good chemistry. Juice just seemed not there,
Yeah, he didn't seem like his head was in it.
which, gonna be honest, is not a promising sign to me, especially based off his past of leaving NXT. Okay, you weren't being used properly, but seeing how you were here makes me now think, were you not being used properly because you didn't really give a damn?
Right. I mean, he's done some good in New Japan.
Sure, he's had good matches, and he's definitely... his character was fun. There was a lot of energy when he came out, but it got sucked right out of the building when these two started locking up.
I mean, it seemed like he phoned it in, which is upsetting because I really like Juice.
Yeah, but honestly, if this is indicative of how he is, that's why you didn't get used in NXT.
Right.
Sorry.
So Juice ends up going over by DQ after Bully Ray comes out.
Oh, yeah, that's where they furthered some ROH stuff here.
Yeah, Bully Ray comes out, smashes Juice with a chair a couple of times.
Then grabs a kendo stick.
Yep. Grabs a kendo stick, and Flip Gordon makes the save. And then Bully Ray's about to use the kendo stick on Flip, and the president of ROH comes out and is like, damn it, Bully, you've done this too many times. You got to stop doing that. The next time you hit somebody with a kendo stick, you're fired.
Yup.
So Bully goes to Silas, you know what, you're on your own, takes the kendo stick and goes home.
Okay.
Then we had arguably the best match of the night.
Yeah, I think this was my favorite match of the night.
It-
It was close second for you?
It was very close second. It was the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick Jackson, against Los Ignorables de Japón, and it was Tetsuya Naito and Sanada. Let me tell you about the pop Naito got.
Oh, this match was so good.
Everybody's timing in this match was, it didn't look like they had rehearsed it, but they had to have because of where the spots were.
Right. Or they're just that good, which, given the skill level of everyone in that ring,
It wouldn't-
easily could have been.
Wouldn't surprise me if they were just that good.
So a lot of people, a lot of wrestling purists are kind of split on the Young Bucks. A lot of newer fans absolutely love them. A lot of older fans think they're killing the business. These guys are so good at being pro wrestlers. If you have problems with them, I don't know what to tell you. It's just you're stuck looking for big guys just hitting big moves.
Right. At this point, you're stuck in the late 80s, early 90s.
You probably loved Clash of the Champions.
Right. So, I mean, just seeing a Meltzer driver in real life.
That was pretty great.
So it's a pile driver.
It's a tombstone pile driver assisted by someone doing a sit-out front flip springboard.
Yeah. And it was amazing to watch.
Yeah.
And it was also amazing to see Naito's Tranquilo pose.
Naito's timing is so incredible.
And I just keep thinking about when he started doing the Bucks poses in the corner where he's staring down Nick Jackson.
Oh, yeah.
Nick Jackson then just goes with the muscle pose real quick and then laughs and then does it the other way and then laughs and points at the crowd and goes, haha, I'm making fun of them, and then does it again.
Yeah. It's just everything there was so good.
There was comedy to it. Naito pandered to the crowd pretty well, but I mean, he kind of deserved it. He's arguably one of the best in the world.
I didn't really know, like, I knew Sonata was an LIJ member, but
Good.
he is so good too.
Yeah.
Everyone there was so good.
Yeah. It was a great match. After that, we had Jay Lethal versus Chris Sabin.
Oh, I forgot about that. This was also not great.
So it was a, what do they call it? Proving ground match.
It was technically proficient, but not entertaining as anything that was surrounding it.
So with ROH, their proving ground matches are if the challenger, it's a non-title match because Jay Lethal's the ROH champion. If the challenger wins the match, either by count out, time limit, or pins or submits the champ, he then gets a future ROH title shot.
Yeah.
These guys have wrestled each other probably 36 times over the last 10 years since...
If not, I'm sure dozens of more times than that.
Right. Since they were both in the X Division in Impact Wrestling and in ROH together.
Yeah. Everything about this match was technically great, just didn't hook the crowd.
No, and I think this was kind of the... As much as it saddens me to say, it was the time killer before Cody came out.
Right. It was the filler match between the Bucks and Cody.
I thought it was a good match, but again, it was one of those technical matches where it would have been better if I watched it on TV.
Yeah. It was unfortunate by the placement. I'm sure it was fine, but whatever.
So they go to a time limit draw. So Sabin gets his world title shot. They immediately restart the match to have his world title shot. Kenny King comes out and drops Jay Lethal.
Yep. So, bit of a schmaz. SCU comes out, makes the save, which was, fine and well. Then we had our main event of the evening, correct?
Yes. The main event was the best friends, Beretta and Chucky T, against the Briscoes, Jay and Mark, and the Elite, Cody and Hangman with Brandy.
This was also phenomenal.
I mean, when you have a guy the size of Hangman Page doing a shooting star press off the apron, it's going to be hard to top.
Yep, it turns out it's pretty good.
Only sad thing about this is Cody popped his knee.
Yeah, Cody apparently hurt his knee kind of throwing his T-shirt to the crowd before the match, unfortunately.
So he was doing a little bit of pandering, like, am I going to throw it here? Oh, I'm going to throw it over here. And then all of a sudden he, like, stumbles back to the corner and he's, like, wiggling his leg and, like, pushing on his knee and stuff. Come to find out he needs his meniscus scoped.
Yeah, in the grand scheme of things, not a major injury, just unfortunately a little fluky thing, but...
Overall, great match. I believe this is actually when SCU comes out because they stopped the Briscoes.
Oh, that's right. SCU was out for this to send everyone home happy.
And we have Kazarian literally just hurling a chair at Mark Briscoe.
One of the
Mark.
The Briscoes are bad.
I had to laugh because they play these redneck characters, but they're from Delaware.
Yeah, like it's a really weird. They almost try to have a mix between a redneck and a Wyatt family type gimmick.
Yeah, but Kazarian hurls a chair directly at one of the Briscoes' heads, and it hit him. It
tagged him in the head with a chair.
It hit him good. So we ended up getting the best friends winning after they pinned one of the Briscoes.
Yeah, best friends pinned one of the Briscoes. Which
was kind of a good booking decision because Beretta was going to end up having to face Cody on the last night to defend his... Cody was going to have to defend his U.S. title against Beretta. That didn't happen because Cody had to pull out, but it's going to happen at Final Wars.
Cool. All right, so yeah, Ring of Honor Global Wars, great event. If you have the chance to go to an ROH or New Japan show, highly recommend it.
I mean, even if you can watch it online,
Yeah, highly recommend these things.
they're phenomenal.
All right, so
Plug time.
Yep. Right before we go to plugs, plugs for a reason. We're gonna do a little bit of a special Thanksgiving show next week. On social media, send us something about wrestling you're thankful for.
Whether it be a wrestler, a match, a promo, an event happening.
Yeah, something from like the last year or so, let's say.
Yeah, you don't have to go back to 89 or anything like that. Just give us something that you're thankful for in the wrestling business.
Yeah, send that to wrestlinghistorypodcast@gmail.com.
You can send it also through Twitter at WrestleHistPod, and you can also send it to us at Facebook at TWIWH.
Yep, TWIWH, or just search Facebook for This Week in Wrestling History.
You can listen to us on Spotify, Google Play Music, and iTunes, and you can also download it when we share the page on Facebook.
All right, we'll be back next week with our special Thanksgiving episode, and until then, we're history.